morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. Yep, the year of chaos, and it just keeps getting more chaotic. In case you haven't heard, it's the war drums are beating and beating, well, in more and more places. South Korea announcing a few hours ago that they are instituting martial law. And I guess they're worried about what's going on with North Korea. I mean, I don't know that North Korea is doing anything North Korea doesn't normally do. I mean, they're doing North Korean stuff, right? I mean, but it just seems like, nope, it's the year of chaos. We got to have it. The war machine continues. Russia starting to rout the Ukrainians. We'll see about, I know Trump today issued an ultimatum about, hey, if you don't free the rest of the hostages, right, we're going to come in and bomb, and I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, Israel's already bombed everything, haven't they? I mean, what's left to bomb? I mean, I don't know, but let me tell you what. We dubbed this the year of chaos, and it is truly that. And when, this is just what happens. I'm sorry, that some people don't want to hear it. But when you start having a breakdown in the financial system, usually you end up with war. And make no mistake about it, the great world wars were all about banking wars and, going back to whether it was the Civil War, the War of 1812. I mean, all of these wars really just go around hand in hand with the banking system, the banking cartel. And I don't care who you are, whether you like it or don't. That's the fact. Now, there's only really one question for everybody out there. What are you going to do about it? What, you think that we're going to have World War III? Do you think that we're going to somehow, you know what? I know we got $36 trillion. We added $150 billion in like a week, but, it's going to be fine because, I don't know, Donald Trump? Nah. Listen, it's what was it? Bush, one of the Bushes, yes, the New World Order. You know what the thing that we didn't realize is really what they were talking about is, hey, pretty soon this current fiat money system is going to come to an end here, and we're going to have to, going to be a lot of pain and poverty in the world, but we're going to have to get ready for the New World Order, and I hope you're getting prepared, because if you don't, I'll make it real simple for you. How poor do you want to be? Period. Don't get diversified, don't prepare, and suffer the consequence. It's just that simple. They've set the deck against us. If you tuned into yesterday's show, we laid it out very, very carefully, all the things that they've done to ensure what? The citizenry ends up paying it all. You think Warren, let me ask you this. You think Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, you think all those guys are selling because they think the stock market's going to go up 25%? You think they're selling because they think we're going to have this great rally? No. They're selling to get ready. How do we get ready? Well, you get some damn gold and silver and as much of it as you can. 800-951 0592, and the website, as you know, allamericangold.com. But when we come back from the break, we're going to break down, going back to the last change in the money system, which really started with what? Well, it started with the Roaring '20s, and it finished with the Great Depression. Oh, yeah, and wait, that was World War II. That's kind of how this whole thing really went down. And Jason, we're going to break it down for people because you know what? It's a good idea because it's not the same, but it is a good idea to look back at the past to kind of figure out what we're going to see in the future. And that's kind of what we're going to do today.
Yeah. I mean, I got this piece that I'm going to read from, and I'm going to try to get sent to you, Joe, so you can look at it. But Roger Babson, and this guy, I learned about him today. It's it's not like it's just one guy that predicts when things go bad. There's always a group of guys. There's always a bunch. But this guy got notoriety, and I'm going to read a little bit about his story on the next segment because I think it pertains to today very, very much so, Joe.
We'll be back with more. Stay with us. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason. Yeah, I know, right? Martial law. Get ready. We'll be back. 0592. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason here on this Tuesday, the 3rd day of September. And as we said, South Korea declaring a state of emergency. On top of that, the war drums beating again. Now, South Korean's parliament now is trying to lift the state of emergency. So we got, again, absolute chaos everywhere right now looking at the markets. And by the way, we haven't talked about this either. The stock market valuations, they're now the highest ever. We know how this goes, guys. The setup is all here. The Dow's down 150, the S&P's down 6, the NASDAQ is up 10. The 10-year note, we would be hoping for a little more flight to safety, but the yields are actually going a little higher right now at 4.22. Crude oil's up $1.50. That makes sense, right? Got war drums beating. Gold is up right now, 2,640. Silver, here it comes. Silver really leading the charge right now, up almost 50 cents, just under $31. You need, and we said it in the first segment, diversify here. Be smart here. Don't be caught up in the emotion, all of the, well, my guy, one thing. That doesn't do anything. That doesn't help you in any way. What does is preparing for what is coming. And it's coming like a freight train. You know, we've been talking about the problems in the debt markets right now. Now we've got, South Korea trying to declare martial law. I mean, it's
did declare martial law. Did declare.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're right.
For anybody listening, think about this. This is the same as COVID lockdowns for South Korea right now. I mean, that's what COVID was. The lockdowns were martial law. And if people are trying to wonder why, because North Korea has been in the news for decades now, with conventional weapons only, it's modeled out that North Korea could wipe out 1 to 2 million people in a matter of hours if they unleashed what they have on the border with South Korea. That's the kind of thing that shakes up the whole world, right, Joe? Those are the kinds of things that can really mess things up. And it's a great way to end the war in Ukraine and continue spending money on the military, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, all of these things are not only are they possible, right? But seemingly, almost by the day, we just get closer and closer and closer to it. And again, it's all about money. It's about money. You got to understand it. It just is what it is. Get your butts diversified and do it quickly. You got big IRAs. You need to be calling here and taking a big chunk of that and getting a gold and silver IRA. You should be calling Y refi. Why? Because you're going to get 10.25% fixed rate of return. Anybody would tell you, wait a minute, you're telling me if I go 5 years that I get 10.25% on year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, anybody will tell you that's pretty good living. And I know, Wall Street had a big year, and all the valuations that are through the roof. And of course, we just told you, listen, what are the really wealthy guys doing? Are they buying or are they selling? And the answer is simple. They're all selling, which tells you need to get ready. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just make it easy, right? Just call them. 888-Y-REFI-24. So, Jason, we kind of talked about in the last segment, hey, we're going to go back and look at the last real crisis and shift in the monetary banking system, which really was the Roaring '20s, which you could argue we kind of had the Roaring '20s, right? I mean, think about this. If you go back to 2013, right, when they finally, I guess, the emergency finally ended, right? Wall Street's up, what, 100, 150% since then, right? Gold's, obviously, we know what gold's done and everything else. Look at what the debt has done, though. That's probably even bigger. It's ridiculous what it's done. And, Jason, then we entered the Great Depression, and then all of a sudden World War III, and it almost looks like we're setting ourselves up for the same path, doesn't it? At least similar. Yeah. I wouldn't say the same, similar.
Yeah, well, it's never exactly the same, but the game plan seems to be the same ever since we put this little central bank into place. The people's elected officials on a Christmas holiday in 1913 said, "Yeah, go ahead. Do it for us." It's just mentally exhausting trying to run our own monetary system in a free and open society. But we'll just start closing this thing down. And ever since that central bank, Joe, yeah, we did these boom and bust cycles are baked into the cake. It's a way for those that are rich and wealthy and powerful are able to increase that and keep competition away. I mean, nothing the ultra powerful really like than having somebody else compete for their ultra powerful positions, right? So you create a system that keeps the average guy down. So how do you do that? Well, market crashes are great. Market crashes, you get the underlings to put their money in, and then you exit, just like Joe said earlier about some of these big titans. They're exiting the market. Yeah, the market's going up. It's because they're getting you to buy in. Babson's warning. This comes from Doug Case's outfit. It's written by Jeff Thomas. A crash is coming, and it may be terrific. The vicious circle will get in full swing, and the result will be a serious business depression. There may be a stampede for selling which will exceed anything the stock exchange has ever witnessed. Wise are those investors who get out of debt. The above words could easily have been stated by me or another of the few others who currently predict the coming of crashes in markets, but they were not. The statements above were made by investor Roger Babson at a speech at the annual business conference in Massachusetts, September 5th, 1929. Mr. Babson's prediction was not a sudden one. In fact, he had been making the same predictions for the previous 2 years. Although in September of 29, the crash was much closer. News of his speech reached Wall Street by mid-afternoon, causing the markets to retreat by about 3%. Once again, this is in September of 29. The sudden decline was named the Babson Break. The reaction from the business insiders was immediate. Rather than respond by saying, "Thanks for the warning, we'll proceed cautiously," Wall Street vilified him. The Chicago Tribune published numerous rebuffs from a host of economists and Wall Street insiders, leaders. Even Mr. Babson's patriotism was taken into question for making such a rash projection. Noted economist Professor Irving Fisher stated emphatically, "There may be a recession in stock prices, but not anything in the nature of a crash." He and many others repeatedly soothed investors, advising them that a resumption in the boom was imminent. Financier Bernard Barsh famously cabled Winston Churchill, "Financial storm definitely passed." Even President Herbert Hoover assured Americans that the market was sound. But 55 days after Mr. Babson's speech, on October 29th, 1929, the market suddenly went into a free fall, dropping 12% on that first day. Today, people have the general impression that on Black Friday, the market crashed and almost immediately there were breadlines. Not so. In the Great Depression, as in any depression, the market collapsed in stages. The market did not reach its bottom of 89% losses until July of 1932. Along the way, thousands of banks and lending institutions went belly up. 13 million jobs disappeared. And of course, political leaders of the day did their bit. They implemented knee-jerk solutions that actually worsened the situation. Restrictive tariffs, gold confiscation, and more dominant government were employed, just as they will be this time around. So as the market tumbled, we would imagine that Babson came to be praised by Wall Street for his insight. But in fact, the opposite occurred. Having accused him of being utterly incorrect in September, they later accused him of having caused the depression. So it was Babson's was Babson's prediction a lucky guess? Did he simply observe the bull market and arbitrarily predict the opposite of the trend of the day to see what would happen? Not at all. Such predictions are not guesswork, nor are they attributable to a vision seen in some crystal ball. Such crashes are entirely predictable when any major bull market becomes overbought, when too many investors begin buying on margin because they can't come up with the purchase price of stocks, when they then become even more obsessive and borrow more money to buy on margin. The market has become a house of cards waiting for the slightest breeze to come along. So what do we take away from this? First, we can be certain that as of the present day house of cards begins to shake, there will be no warnings from Wall Street. In fact, quite the opposite. Their bread gets buttered by buyers. They will be adamant, even in many cases truly believe, that the sky is the limit and investors should buy, as there are fortunes to be made by doing so. And investors watching the rise will fall over each other, just as in 1929, buying with both hands. This time around, the crash and its byproducts will be more extreme than 1929, as the bubble is far more extreme, and Wall Street can count on television and the media that has a vested interest in keeping the charade going as long as possible. It will also be more extreme as the governments of much of the world are now broke and can only worsen their respective economies through the customary solutions the government always offers: tariffs, confiscations, greater government control, etc. Joe, that's basically it. There's a little bit more, but I mean, sure sounds like what we've been talking about. And yeah, we've been talking about for a couple of years. People might say, well, I remember 2022 you were saying this, in 2023. Yeah, but the timing, Joe, we can't predict the exact timing of it. But you can see what's happening, Joe.
Yeah, and it's always the scenarios that we try to point out. It's not without notice. I mean, we've sat here and I would argue, okay, between Jamie Dimon and Warren Buffett, right? Those are the mainstream guys. They've been saying it for what? At least the last 2 years. You know, and then you start talking about, you know, it's so funny they talked about tariffs back in the Great Depression era, right? What are we talking about now? Tariffs, right? Why? Because, well, it's a financial problem, right? We you know what? In order for us to do this, we've got to do that, and of course, here's the problem with the way I see the tariffs of today, which is this is what it would cost to allegedly bring the jobs back to America, right? Because is that the goal? Is that the goal of the tariff? To bring the jobs back? Think about what that really would cost. And then 5 years from now, imagine, well, how much more will it cost? It's not like the jobs will come back and it gets cheaper. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason here on this Tuesday, and already just shaping up to be another one of many in the year of chaos as South Korean's president has declared martial law. You know, I just hate it because I really believe I know exactly what's going to happen. Exactly what's going to happen. And too many people are just going to be lost in the wilderness again. And it's funny because it's like, do we never want to learn a lesson? Right? Pounding your head against the wall and somehow expecting the result to be different. I don't know why people think it will be. It won't be. Because it's not a Democrat-Republican problem. I mean, believe me, they caused it. But a long, long time ago, they caused it. See, the winners write history, right, Jason? We say that all the time. The winners get to write the history. So they write it so they seem like the guy in the white hat. America became a superpower without a central bank. Think about all the great things that came out of the United States. And how did it happen? And it happened very simply. Without a central bank. What did that mean? There was no income tax. Think about this. We had a government that ran itself without an income tax. And somehow we became the superpower of the world. Fast forward to today. Right? Everybody and their brother. And depending on where you live, some states it's even worse. Some states say you got to work all the way to June before you make any money. Everywhere else, let's face it, you got to take 4 months out of the year. And let me tell you, it's only going to get worse.
Now, let me dumb that down a little bit. If you're getting taxed 20, 30, 40%, if you do your 5-day work week, Monday through Friday, most people sometime late in Tuesday or Wednesday is the first time they start to earn their own money. You know, the rest of it goes to taxes. You're working Monday and Tuesday for the government, and then you get to keep Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to barely pay your bills and everything else, Joe.
And it's so funny because, you sit there and we hear about, well, I'm going to lower taxes for this person. I'm going to give you a tax break on this one. We used to have no taxes. Do you know where the income tax came from? Most people don't. That's the funniest part. It was when we created the central bank that they instituted the income tax in 1913. Do you know that when they took us off the gold standard, and they like the term, hey, when we closed the gold window. Right? Of course, really all that means is we reneged on, once again, our commitment. So we were selling bonds as a country that you could exchange for dollars or for gold. And let me show you how fast it went. In 1933, they took the gold from us. And then they said, all these contracts that you could pay in gold, nope, you can't pay it in gold. You got to turn your gold in, blah, 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 blah. Then they raised the price to $35. So imagine if you got to keep your gold in a day. It went from $20 to $35. Almost doubled your wealth in a day. That may happen again. But here's what happened. All of these foreign governments were like, wait a minute. You mean this $20 gold piece? If I give it back to you, you're going to let me buy $35 worth of stuff. Yep. Man, and they gave it back. By the time World War II was over and getting into the 50s, the United States had 20,000 tons of gold. But see, then something changed about the mid-50s. All of a sudden, these governments are like, this $35 just doesn't seem to buy $35 worth of stuff anymore. You know what? I'll take some gold. Give me gold. Give me gold. And by 1971, we were down to the alleged 8,000 tons that we have today. Now, look what happens. We tell all these governments you no longer can take gold. You can only take dollars. And that went along for a little while, didn't it? It probably crescendoed in the mid-90s when Bill Clinton, Alan Greenspan, we had a couple of budget surpluses. We really didn't, but we'll call it a budget surplus. We're going to pay off the debt by 2010. We have done it. Of course, we were in the middle of a bubble, weren't we? The tech bubble. Remember that bubble? That just blew up so famously? Followed by the housing crisis and, of course, the financial bubble. Right? And another spectacular crash. Followed by unprecedented money printing. We've never printed so much money. Of course, Jason will tell you about COVID 2020. I mean, we just said, to hell with it. Let's just print massive amounts. It was so much, the world just couldn't understand how much it was. Kind of got that Roaring 20 feel. All of a sudden, right? Houses, right? Remember the last housing bubble? Oh, yeah, it's up 1,000. Dude, we did it again. But now, nobody can afford one. But the prices won't go down. Yep. Wait for the next wipeout. You'll own nothing and like it. Patriot Radio News Hour. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. I'll say this. Why do I have a feeling that gold is flying off the shelves in South Korea as that country is now entering into a major political crisis as the parliament is, refusing the martial law. We'll see how all of this plays out. It's just chaos because it's all the same. It doesn't matter. French debt, German debt, British debt, U.S. debt, Russian debt, Chinese debt, South Korean debt, Japanese debt. Right, every major, I love the G7 countries. Yeah, right. They all got debt of over like 100% of GDP and skyrocketing towards the moon. I mean, it really is fantasy. You're going to wake up, and the fantasy is going to be over. That's just the reality. I don't want it to be. It's just what happens. Are you going to prepare? That's it. That's the only question. So yesterday, what a great opportunity yesterday was. Too many of you missed it. Today, we've got $20, and the lieu of, yesterday, I was like, yesterday was Cyber Monday. And I'll tell you what, this is my cyber, I won't even call it cyber, non-cyber, because I'm not going to put it online. You got to call. You know what? You got to call. We're going to go back the old-fashioned way. You got to call. $20 gold pieces. I'm going to take $100 off. $2,725. I mean, gold right now is up 10, $26.50. That'd be a whopping $75 over spot for a $20 gold piece. Guys, that's not even 3%. It's not even 3%. That's 2.8%. By the way, February gold, right, is already up to almost to $26.70. Get ready here. Get it put away and do it today. 800-951-0592. And Jason, I just, I don't know what it's going to be. Whether it's war, a failed auction somewhere. Is France going to have a failed auction? Is South Korea going to have a failed auction? Right? The Japanese, they figured out how we'll just monetize everything. But it's coming. Right? The debt markets are telling you the crash is coming. Warren Buffett is telling you the crash is coming. Jamie Dimon, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, they're all warning.
Zuckerberg. On August 9th, Zuckerberg adopted the rule 10B5-1, a plan to sell 2.5 million shares of stock worth $1.3 billion. Of course, then he went and met with Trump recently. I just asked Google, because a lot of times Google will give you questions to ask, or you can ask questions. Why is Mark Zuckerberg selling Meta stock? It says Zuckerberg primarily is selling Meta shares to fund philanthropic initiatives, charity. According to his company spokesman, he has pledged to give 99% of his stake to charitable purposes. Doesn't say what kind of time frame. Maybe when he's dead, he'll give 99% away. Mark Benioff, Zuckerberg's peer in the tech world, has also been selling shares of Meta. He was selling shares every day for the entirety of the second half of 2023. So, they're selling it because they're going to give it to charity, Joe. Don't sell your stock. Zuckerberg's selling it to give it to charity. So don't panic. This is what rich billionaires do. They give it to charity. Don't sell. See, so Joe's saying, well, what's going to happen? What emergency is going to happen? Well, it all comes down to that. It all comes down to who's got control over assets and the money in the world. That's what it really comes down to. And when somebody threatens that control, or there's a few headwinds in this system, then things go bump in the night. Coronavirus just magically pops up when markets are weak. 9/11 happens when the tech bubble's bursting. These are the kinds of things that happen, Joe, and the next one's coming, and we don't know for sure what it is, but just like Roger Babson that we read earlier, we see it happening. It's going to happen. Now it's just when's it going to happen and how severe and what kind of newsreel story worldwide are they going to push on us? South Korea, it could be South Korea. It could be Iran. It could be any number one of these hot spots in the world where they can create a war. I know the one thing they've been pushing on us, Joe, the last 10 years or so, cyber attack this and cyber attack that, and Target gave up your personal information. A major cyber attack, and you can say it's XYZ country or hackers or whatever, shut down the grid in one part of the country, and suddenly you got your emergency, right, Joe? These are all baked into the cake. It's all ready to go, isn't it, Joe? Any kind of emergency that you can think of, and they always are telling us predictive programming. Why not the big cyber attack, right, Joe? The grid goes out in Texas, and it's going to be shut down for 2 months. It's going to ruin the American economy. Gosh darn it! There's nothing we can do about it. And then suddenly gold flies off the shelf.
The boat took out the bridge, right? The boat took out the bridge,
yes.
Whatever it may be. The dock workers are going to strike. I'm going to tell you right now. If you think it's expensive now, just wait. Wait and see what happens. The bond yields are not going lower. Why? The answer's simple. It's the year of chaos. Everyone always says, well, how much debt is going to be too much debt? Right? When it was $1 trillion, we thought, oh, that may be too much. 5 trillion, 10 trillion. Well, guess what? I think we're starting to find out, aren't we? Yeah. There's only one option. We got to grow out of it. What's the best way to grow? War, right? Right? It's the best way. 800-951-0592. The opposite of a cyber sale at Patriot Trading Group today. $20 gold pieces. Take $100 off. $27.25. But you have to call 800-951-0592. Right now, gold's almost back to the highs of the day here, up $12, $26.51. So you're like, $74 over spot, less than 3% over spot here. Just incredible. Silver up 50 cents, $30.99 on silver today. Wall Street's down a couple of 100 points. Not only we had maybe the shortest martial law ever in South Korea, but we understand the damage being done. And it has so much more to do with financing than anything. The Korean won just getting jackhammered today. And also word is that the peace in the Middle East, at least in Lebanon, looks like it's on the brink of collapse. So, Jason, war drums beating everywhere, but we've got bigger problems. Look at France, right? France is like, oh my gosh, right? They just got rid of one government. Now they got to do it again. They're in massive amounts of debt. And what do they want to do? Well, we want to have more debt, right? You got to let us, right? The heck with what the EU says. And now, of course, issues in South Korea. Don't be fooled. This probably, in my opinion, probably has more to do with debt than it does North Korea. But, Jason, everybody better get ready, because this is something where it has been very obvious. You know what? 55 records for the S&P this year. That's exactly what happened during the dot-com bubble. That's exactly what happened during the financial bubble. right? All of these record highs, yet look at all the underneath stuff. Look at homelessness in this country. Look at the housing. Look at the housing market. The housing market's back to the 90s because no one can afford one. But somehow, no, don't worry. Everything's going to be A-okay. Get your gold put away. And especially this price is just ridiculous, giving it away. 800-951-0592. I'm just curious. What's going to happen tomorrow, right? I mean, you don't even know. I was at work this morning when this thing kind of came out about martial law. I'm like, what is going on? Jason, it is definitely chaos.
Well, I mean, what kind of guarantees has Russia and China given North Korea recently as those 10,000 troops marched into Russia, right? So something's different. Do you remember those roads they were closing down on the border there, North Korea? So there's things happening there. You know, there's a reason that the president of South Korea panicked and did this martial law. You know, he's spooked. He's spooked because, you know, we're not there, Joe. We're not reporting on the border of North Korea and South Korea, but it could very quickly become something we're going to be talking about if something major starts to happen there, Joe. So it doesn't matter where it happens. It's just going to happen. And then you're not going to dictate the Korean War. You're going to have to figure out how the economic chaos is going to affect you, Joe.
800-951-0592. The non-cyber special $20 gold pieces, 2,700.